Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are gearing up for the fantasy football playoffs here. I wanted to get an updated rest of season wide receiver rankings video as we are getting more injury updates with guys like Jamar Chase, Mike Williams. Obviously, we got to see Hollywood Brown coming back to Arizona. But before we get into anything, please go down there, drop a like on this video. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comment section. And also in that comment section, you can find a link to Underdog Fantasy. On Underdog Fantasy, you can check out all these cool player props. And when you sign up with promo code FLOCK, they're going to match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. And only with promo code FLOCK are you going to get access to this free Patrick Mahomes bet. So deposit $10, immediately have 20 in your account. Go fire the $20 on Patrick Mahomes to have more than one passing yard. I think it's probably a lot going up against the Cincinnati Bengals. Available in damn near every state, and I worked my butt off to get you all that deal. But should be it. Let's go through. Let's dive into these rankings. Starting off in the first tier, Jefferson, Diggs, Tyreek. And we're going to sneak Devontae Adams in here. We'll sneak Devontae Adams in here at 4. I mean, there's not too much to discuss with tier 1. We already know these are the elite level wide receivers. I think you could very easily see any one of these wide receivers being the wide receiver 1 from here on out. That's why they're all going to be in tier 1 for me. Now, they also have no red flags whatsoever. None of these players are dealing with any injuries. None of these players have injuries to their quarterbacks. So I don't think it's too important with how we rank these guys in tier 1, just as long as we all acknowledge that they are the tier 1 wide receivers. Dropping down to tier 2, we are going to have Jamar Chase and DeAndre Hopkins. I'm viewing this tier as wide receivers that, have the ceiling to be the wide receiver 1 overall the rest of the way. I mean, I think you could very easily see Jamar Chase come back from his injury, play against the Kansas City Chiefs, get into a shootout, and right away be that wide receiver 1 his first week back in. But there's still a red flag. I mean, we don't necessarily want to be going through and looking at Jamar Chase as a wide receiver that has just as high of a floor as what you may have with Tyreek Hill, where obviously Chase is coming off that injury. And with DeAndre Hopkins, he has his own red flag in that you're getting Hollywood Brown coming back into this offense. The Arizona Cardinals are playing for absolutely nothing at this point. And on top of it, DeAndre Hopkins is going to have to go through a bye week this week. So you're going to have him for one fewer week than all the tier 1 wide receivers. So I think those are the two reasons why we have to have Chase and Hopkins a tier below those other names. But dropping down to our next tier, these are the wide receivers that I could see being top 5 options, but I don't think it's a possibility that they're the number 1 overall guy like the first 6 have that as a possibility. CeeDee Lamb's going to be our first player here at 7. With Lamb, obviously, he's been incredible. The Dallas Cowboys have been incredible. I would love to know your opinion in the comment section. Do you think the Dallas Cowboys are a true contender? Do you think Dallas could actually go out there and win the NFC? Because we know they have a phenomenal defense. We know that phenomenal defense has been allowing the Dallas Cowboys to go through and run the ball consistently. I mean, we are just seeing Las Vegas put so much respect on this defense that, hell, they have them as 11-point favorites versus the Indianapolis Colts this week. So with Lamb, phenomenal player, phenomenal offense. I'm not worried at all if Odell Beckham Jr. were to go there. Now, going over to 8, we are going to have Amari Cooper. With Amari Cooper, I think you have to have him locked and loaded as that top 10 wide receiver. Now that we have Deshaun Watson back in, and with Amari Cooper, he had already been a borderline top 10 wide receiver as is. Now, I know a lot of people maybe think that Deshaun Watson starts slow. Maybe the first week back in against the Houston Texans is going to be a little bit tough. I still think Deshaun Watson is leaps and bounds a better quarterback for Amari Cooper and the Cleveland Browns than what you had with Jacoby Brissett. So we kind of have to move Amari up. And then going at 9 and 10, we are going to have the combination of Jalen Waddle as well as Amon-Ra St. Brown. Very difficult to rank both these wide receivers. I mean, just because we said his name, you know, I have to remind you that Jalen Waddle, my most drafted wide receiver. Okay, I'm just pulling your leg here. But anyway, Amon-Ra St. Brown, not worried at all about Jameson Williams coming into this offense with Jameson Williams. I think he stretches the field. I think he takes defensive safety attention away. I think defensive coordinators have to game plan for the speed of Jameson Williams on the outside. But I still think Amon-Ra St. Brown, the wide receiver operating close to the line of scrimmage in that flanker type role, is going to be the wide receiver getting 25-30% of his team's targets. And with Jalen Waddle at 9, I mean, the playoff schedule is going to be a little tougher. That's why you're going to see that we don't have Tyreek Hill at 1. That's why we don't have Jalen Waddle as the top 5 wide receiver. You know, I'd love to throw Jalen Waddle in that same tier as Jamar Chase. Just a little difficult too. And then our next guy, A.J. Brown at 11. With A.J. Brown, I mean, hasn't been great as of late, but with Brown, we know this is a wide receiver that wins with efficiency. In any given week, A.J. Brown could easily go out there and be the wide receiver 1 overall. But because the Philadelphia Eagles are so effective at running the football, because you're not getting 10 targets guaranteed to A.J. Brown every single week, he does have a floor that's going to be lower than a lot of the wide receivers in this tier as well, at least from a week-to-week standpoint. Seems like a wide receiver that honestly may be a little bit better in best ball, but of course, even in your redraft league, you're starting him every week. And then at 12, we are going to go with T. Higgins. Higgins has actually been better than this from a points per game standpoint, especially if we're looking at the past few months. But you have to keep in mind Jamar Chase coming back to Cincinnati. While Chase is probably going to elevate this overall Cincinnati Bengals offense, still, he's going to take a lot of the production himself. Now, dropping down to our next tier, we're going to get a little bold here. I know people are going to hate us for ranking Evans as high. We're going to go Godwin and Evans back to back. I know we've been too high on Godwin, too high on Evans for a while now. I don't think so. I'm looking at a Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense that, yes, isn't the NFL quality of a team that you would want to go out there and win the Super Bowl. Like, yes, if you're a Bucs fan, you should be worried. But as we've said, from a fantasy football standpoint, when the target volume's here with these two talented wide receivers, I'm going to be buying the dip. Now, Godwin's the guy who had the spike week this past week, so I know a lot of people are going to be screaming, oh my gosh, Godwin should be higher. And Evans has had a few disappointing weeks in a row, so you're going to have a lot of people screaming, oh my God, Mike Evans should be lower. In reality, I think that you're going to get natural volatility in this wide receiver room as we've seen for years and years and years now, and you shouldn't be overreacting to what we've had over the past month when these guys are both getting close to 10 targets a game. Now, our next guy will be Chris Olave at 15. With Chris Olave, I mean a wide receiver that's playing on one of those teams that doesn't have anything going for them. The New Orleans Saints, sadly, are not going to be an NFL playoff team, are not going to have any shot at the Super Bowl. So with Chris Olave, he goes into the bucket where if he stubs his toe on his dining room table, the New Orleans Saints coaching staff's going to go, okay, man, hey, sit down for the rest of the year. I mean, we don't necessarily need you going out there risking your health for absolutely nothing. Obviously, he's the future of the franchise. Michael Thomas out for the rest of the year. I think that it's a fine spot to rank him. Low in wide receiver 1, high in wide receiver 2. Then we're going to go Metcalf and Lockett at 16 and 17. This just speaks to the depth of the overall tier that we have. Like, I think you could easily sit here and go, oh, Mason, you fool. We got to put DK Metcalf at the top of this tier. Tyler Lockett needs to be at the Honestly, I think you can go back and forth with all these players in this tier. They are going to be neck and neck for me. We're going to go Keenan Allen and Christian Kirk at 18 and 19 as well. I mean, I think that if you're looking at these two players, they are guys that have very, very high ceilings. But at the same time, we can at least acknowledge the fact that, hell, with Keenan Allen, you're going to get Mike Williams back in this offense at some point. We'll talk about him in just one second. With Christian Kirk, I thought that he was going to be very consistent. I didn't think he had much target competition until Zay Jones came out this past week, and Zay Jones dominated with like 14 targets. So maybe there's a little more target competition for Christian Kirk than I initially thought. Now, if you look at our rankings this week, we are going to have Christian Kirk significantly higher than this. We're going to have Keenan Allen higher than this as well. But the reason for this is the fact that, hell, you have, a phenomenal matchup. And I repeat, a phenomenal matchup for Kirk here going up against the Detroit Lions. Arguably, it's about the best matchup you can ask for. And then also, if we are going to be looking at Keenan Allen, you'll have no Mike Williams in this game, or at least you shouldn't have Mike Williams, considering the fact this is a wide receiver that's not at practice on Thursday. But now dropping down to our next tier, like I said, you can go back and forth with all those players right there. We're going to go Hollywood Brown at 20. With Hollywood, he comes in, runs more routes than DeAndre Hopkins his first week back. With Hollywood Brown, I still think that Hopkins dominates the targets here, indicated by where we rank DeAndre Hopkins versus Hollywood. But this is a wide receiver that has a very high ceiling. Kind of unfortunate for Hollywood Brown and his fantasy production that the Arizona Cardinals had the bye week exactly when they did, because you are most likely going to get Rondale Moore coming back after the bye, getting Greg Dortch coming back after the bye, and of course, Hollywood Brown's going to be playing over those guys, but it will just be more wide receiver depth that the Arizona Cardinals can go to if they need to. But at 21, we are going to have Garrett Wilson. With Garrett Wilson, I want to have him a lot higher than this. I really want to move Garrett Wilson higher than this. I want to put him up there at 13, 14. We had a question in the live stream a couple nights ago asking what would it take for Garrett Wilson to go up there and be a top 12 wide receiver, to get inside the top 3 tiers. I mean, I think for him to jump to tier number 4, that's not going to take much at all. One more okay week from Garrett Wilson, he'll be a tier 4 wide receiver for us, and we won't have to think about it. Will be a little bit tougher to break inside the top 12 and make that jump, I mean, across everybody there in tier 4. I think with Garrett Wilson, what we need to see is probably another very strong performance from Mike White. Garrett Wilson himself probably needs to have a game where he gets double-digit targets as well as close to 80, 90 receiving yards. Obviously, we don't need him to hit 100. He's already proven a ton for us. I just want to be a little hesitant in going all in and saying Mike White is some bona fide stud. Mike White's going to turn this New York Jets offense into the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't want to go that far. I will admit that Mike White had a very good matchup against the Chicago Bears a week ago. Garrett Wilson is extremely exciting, though. And I know so many people are going to hate these rankings, and you can do what you want with it. We're going to go Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk at 22 and 23. I think any individual week, these wide receivers have a significantly higher ceiling than this ranking. But going back to what we've been discussing for about a month now, there are too many cooks in the kitchen in San Fran. In San Francisco, you have CMC, Kittle, Deebo, Ayuk, even Jawan Jennings is now getting involved. I mean, he was bleeding pretty much this team in receiving this past week. So if we have this many cooks in the kitchen, it's fine if you have Patrick Mahomes at quarterback dropping back 45 times a game, or if you're playing on the Detroit Lions roster where your defense is going to be allowing every team to put up 30 points. So your offense is going to have to go through and have 40 pass attempts a game. Well, in San Francisco, you have a culmination of a couple things happening. You have so much target competition among these top level players, but at the same time, because this is such a good roster, you have the elite level defense that is shutting out opponents and making it where the 49ers are able to do what they love best: run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. So the passing volume isn't there for us to be super excited about these individual passing options in San Francisco. I want to put them higher than this. It's difficult with the combo of this defense and all the competition. Now, 24, we're going to go Mike Williams. With Mike Williams, very difficult to rank him. I would assume that we don't have Mike Williams playing this week. I know the coaching staff said one thing, but what I'm looking at is the fact that it is Thursday. Mike Williams is missing practice. We had the coaching staff telling us for God knows how long, oh, Keenan Allen may be back this week. Oh, yeah, we're hoping Keenan Allen's back. Oh, Keenan Allen maybe next week. And then Keenan Allen sat up the next 2 months. I have no idea what's going on with Mike Williams in this ankle injury. I think we have to be a little bit cautious. But dropping down to our next tier, we're going to go Christian Watson at 25. I know this is another one of those very young, exciting players where people are going to be spamming going, Mason, you are an idiot. Christian Watson's a top 15 guy. Did not see the long touchdown reception. Trust me, I am rooting for Christian Watson. The amount of best ball teams I have Christian Watson on this year, I would be doing very, very well. I would be a happy, happy man if Christian Watson continues this. But if we're going to be realistic with ourselves, this Green Bay Packers offense is bad. On top of this, you have Christian Watson averaging a touchdown on 50% of his receptions over the past 3 weeks. Almost all of his fantasy points are coming from touchdowns, the most volatile statistic in fantasy football. And I know maybe you're going to say, well, Mason, if he is this efficient, they're just going to get him more targets down the stretch. And that is what I'm hoping for. And that's why he's ranked here. But it's going to be difficult to get him too many more targets if we have Romeo Doubs coming back into this offense very soon. And that's just going to be another weapon that either Jordan Love or Aaron Rodgers can go to. So I want to have Christian Watson higher than this. I really, really hope he outperforms this, but it's difficult. And going over to our next guy, we're going to go Michael Pittman at 26. Bad offense. I mean, hell, this week it's a horrendous matchup against the Dallas Cowboys. Obviously, we're looking for longer than this week. But I will say, I think we should be a little bit more pessimistic about wide receivers playing in offenses that aren't playing for anything. The Colts at this point are just playing for a draft pick. Now, going over to our next two guys, Devonta Smith and Gabe Davis, both very similar options. We've been talking about this all year now. They're number 2 players in elite level offenses that they don't have the consistent target volume, but because of their talent and because of how many points their offense will be putting up, they will give you some massive spike weeks. They will give you some massive spike weeks. Now, going over to 29, we are going to have Juju Smith-Schuster, a sell-high wide receiver for us a while back, but now we have no Hardman. Now we have Tony, and people hate Juju Smith-Schuster. I mean, at least a lot more than they did a few weeks ago before the injury. So I think Juju is someone that, honestly, is probably appropriately priced in fantasy football. And we're going to have Terry McLaurin at 30. And I already hear it. This is another one of those guys in the Premier chat. People are probably screaming at me going, Mason, you clown. Terry McLaurin is rated a 99 on Madden. Terry McLaurin had this highlight catch I saw on Twitter. The Washington Commanders are winning games with Taylor Heineke. I can already hear you. I already know you're screaming at me that Terry McLaurin's so much better than this. I'm not in the business of looking at Madden ratings, looking at highlight catches, or evaluating if Taylor Heineke is better for the Washington Commanders to win football games. What I'm looking at is if you're looking at the fantasy points per game since Taylor Heineke has taken over at quarterback, guys, Terry McLaurin's not any better than this. This is where he's been. And on top of it, a lot of those games you had no Jahan Dotson. You had no Logan Thomas, who are both back in this offense. So the situation going forward is probably worse for Terry McLaurin. So I understand that people view Terry McLaurin as some elite level talent. It doesn't matter. It's very similar to DJ Moore. You can be so damn good, but if you're not scoring fantasy points, what am I supposed to do with you? And going down to a bunch of players that, I mean, I wanted to squeeze in this list, but it's difficult to put them ahead of anybody inside the top 30. We have someone like George Pickens, great talent, horrible offense. Allen Lazard, I mean, I think at this point we can safely rank Christian Watson ahead of him. I mean, Jacoby Myers has been very good, but who knows what we're getting with the New England Patriots. DJ Moore, very similar situation to Terry McLaurin, great talent. I mean, probably a really high Madden rating. I don't play Madden, but I'd assume that people really like him. And I liked him coming into the season. But when we look at how bad this Panthers offense is, we can't ignore it. And then the Denver Broncos wide receivers. I mean, how the hell am I supposed to put them in the top 30? If Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler are possibly coming back soon in Denver, then that's going to crater Courtland Sutton. And this entire offense is just so damn bad. But please let me know what you think I got wrong. Don't do it in the Premier chat. Go do it in the comment section so I can actually read it later on. And of course, if you enjoyed this, drop a like on this video. If you want to check out any of these cool player props or get into a draft with us in the live stream, make sure you go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code FLOCK and they'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $200. So it's pretty much free to check out. And on top of it, only with promo code FLOCK are you going to be getting this a free Patrick Mahomes bet, which I am super excited to be able to get you. But thank you again. I truly do appreciate you. I hope you have a great day and hope we get to see you in the live stream tonight.